very often, I think this judgment, this exclusion is telling more about the person who excludes actually than, or the person or the system excluding than the people who try to come in.
Why we're doing this today, why this episode exists, we are hoping to also help anyone who has also recognized their own tendency or readiness to permanently regulate or relegate, or as we say in German, abstempeln, whether it be people or systems or methodologies as failures because it's the easiest thing to do at the moment. First of all, I appreciate the example that you brought of this young woman who worked at KFC for a while with all her qualifications and eventually breaking through the limits placed on her by the society within which she found herself. And you spoke about also your own experience. You brought examples and comparisons with other friends who were in similar situations. And you also drew an example of, let's say, European society and how it behaved or how it had to behave based on its own limitation, its own inability to accept the other. I'm still basking in the afterglow of that opera that I saw yesterday, Tosca, yes. And for some reason, I don't know. I mean, the story was pretty dark and it did explore some of the dark sides of the human existence. But whatever the case, a lot of it was also driven by love, which is, knowledge of love and the feeling and the experience of it, most of us have. And the question is, what are we going to do with it? Anna, wonderful that you're here again, and thank you for joining me today at such short notice.
Thank you for having me spontaneously.
How was your day today?
Extremely full, I have to say. So it's a high season, let's say, end of the year. Everybody wants to finish things, plan things for next year, and so on. So a lot of things, and I'm struggling a bit with the aftermath of COVID, in the sense that, I have sometimes trouble remembering things or finding words. So it's, let's say, costs more energy than usually. But yes. I'm very happy to be here and spend a nice moment with you.
Fantastic. And I'm looking at your studio and it seems a little bit different than it usually looks. Have you changed something?
Actually not. I'm just, it's dark outside and I just have a light from in front of me.
Mm-hmm.
And it's actually my office. It's not the place I use usually to record, so I hope the sound will be fine. There's a lot of glass here.
Mm-hmm.
May sound a bit metallic. I hope not.
It's fine. The quality of the sound is, loud and clear and crisp, and I don't think we'll have a problem. I'm just happy that you took the leap to do this with me, because yesterday, coincidentally, I was I'll show off a little bit. I was on the way to the opera to see Tosca. And it was
wow.
Fantastic
Great.
piece. Yes, very, very shocking and very bloody. And, I looked at, I don't know, if I were to reduce it to 2 words, I would say, 3 words: love, jealousy, and...
Nice mix.
That's what I would reduce it to. But it was fantastic. Was there with a very good friend of mine, and we had a wonderful time in 3 acts. It was pretty long, almost 3 hours, and it was great. Have you seen Tosca, by the way?
Not yet. I know some parts of it, but no, I love it when you can just dive. I love pop music too. When you have 3 to 5 minutes of a song, but I love to dive in this music and in the complexity of a story and music and scene and so on. So and it's also always has to do with some universal dimensions of humanity or non-humanity or
Exactly. The
yeah,
borders of humanity,
yeah,
you could even
exactly,
say,
exactly, yeah.
you know. Well, I don't know. Maybe you could see it as a bit of flattery from my part. I've been known to flatter sometimes, but I was on the way to this richness of artistic expression, and I thought of you. And I thought, and this is actually why this episode is existing or why it exists. I thought to myself about our readiness as human beings to permanently relegate someone or something to the status or title of failure. Yes, within maybe intercultural contexts, interpersonal contexts, whatever context we might find, but we are so quick to to just say something or someone is a failure, also driven by cultural stereotypes that we might have, and we find easy to just use, and sometimes even, well, as I said, relegate the status of people or things permanently, as a failure. And it's something that crossed my mind while I was walking because, even as a trainer, sometimes I might meet someone and they do something, and, the stereotypes that I have, my own uh, judgmental approach might cause me
Mm,
to quickly, in German we say abstempeln,
mm,
because subconsciously I don't want to think too much, so I do that to a person, or as a human being, or I might do that to a system. It could be an approach to training in this case, or methodology, or anything. So I was just
mm.
thinking, how do we as human beings be aware, be a little more aware or mindful of these tendencies, and how do we manage them? Yeah, I could also ask if you're aware of these tendencies that we have sometimes, or not.
Oh, yes, it's something that I relate to very strongly. I've been experiencing several moments of that kind lately. So I don't I I don't know if it's um, an answer to the question, how do we? I don't know if it's valid for everybody or has a kind of objective or at least general value. But in my experience lately, for example, I read a LinkedIn post a few days ago about a young woman from Nigeria who was the best in her school. She skipped 2 classes when she was a child because she was really smart and could learn quickly and so on. And she, with her family, migrated to Europe, to Germany. And there she had to learn German. And suddenly she found herself being abgestempelt, as you said, with the teachers discouraging her, really discouraging her from taking the A levels, the German Abitur. And she was so crushed. She described this very difficult phase for her, where she lost her self-esteem, her faith in her own intelligence. And after a few years, she worked at KFC, I think, and did different jobs and so on, and thought that was it. This was my life. This is the limit of what I'm allowed to grow. But she managed. She decided, and she was supported also by her family, apparently, to keep going and to do her Fachabitur and to study. And she did it brilliantly and finished her bachelor, and she was celebrating it and telling this story on LinkedIn. And I was deeply touched
Hmm.
because I think, it means that the system is not able to integrate such a smart person just because of the language.
Mm-hmm.
And we're actually global country, with international global players, companies working abroad and so on. And we have a system that recognizes diploma inside Europe too, but
Mm-hmm.
we're not I think we have structural systemic obstacles. So you mentioned this tendency to judge on an individual level. So our own attitude to be judgmental and to put a stamp, is that the
Mm-hmm.
word?
Yes, a stamp,
On
yes.
somebody very quickly.
Yes.
But we also have what I call patterns of underestimation.
Mm.
And I think they're extremely strong, and we kind of drink them, or we breathe them from the very beginning, and especially at school. I had this experience too. When I was a child, I came to France when I was 3 years old, speaking fluently Polish. Really, I spoke very at an early age and did complete sentences, and my parents were talking German with each other, so I also understood German and so on. And I came to Germany, and all this knowledge and ability counted for nothing suddenly. Yeah. And if I wanted to survive and to exist, I had to conform to learn the language, but it was more than learning a language, because there was no bienveillance, we say in French, or
What does that mean?
Wohlwollen, we say in German. I can't find the
Wohlwollen.
English
Ah, yeah,
word.
good intentions. Good intentions, I
Yeah,
think. Mm-hmm.
exactly. It's this kind of kind way of approaching people who learn
Mm-hmm.
and who want to learn the language. It was more than that. It was not just about learning the language. It was about showing the readiness to conform, to accept the new box. So it
Mm-hmm.
was really, I felt already then, that it was more than just about speaking correctly, adding correctly language. It was not only about communication. It was about
Yes.
accepting a power relationship,
Aha.
accepting to be the small one who was
Mm-hmm.
learning till you cannot tell the difference anymore. Yeah.
Yes.
So at a certain point, I was able to kind of disappear in France, or appear like a real French person, because I'm speaking usually without accent.
Mm-hmm.
It meant also hiding completely the rest of my identity, of my culture. And for years, I have been experiencing my belonging to other cultures and other languages as something that was made immediately ridiculous.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So making fun of my good accent in other languages, or making fun of other countries, criticizing Germany for being Nazis,
Mm-hmm.
criticizing Poland for being a country of polar bears and where there was no electricity. So very often, I think this judgment, this exclusion is telling more about the person who excludes actually
Mm-hmm.
than, or the person or the system excluding, than the people who try to come in.
Yes. Oh
It,
my
it was
goodness.
showing, let's say, how little the French people around me knew about Poland, and how little curious they were of other countries, other cultures, other habits. And so I had to pay, and I think it's very often the price. You have to pay a high price to show you are in the norm or conform. And I was also, compared to my friends who were coming from Tunisia, for example, Morocco and Algeria in France, yeah,
Yes.
they were in the same situation as me. They are also bilingual. They had
Yes.
also at least Arabic
Mm-hmm.
in their luggage,
Yes.
and at least sometimes also, I can't remember the name now, this beautiful language in the Maghreb.
I don't
So
remember that.
at least they were at least speaking two languages, yeah.
Yes.
But there was no chance. This capital had absolutely no value.
Yes.
But they didn't have the chance that I have a fair skin, and I had blonde hair at that time, and I could disappear and be allowed to be visible in what people. I could kind of,
In certain
it was an
circles.
illusion. I could give people the illusion that I'm French.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Easier.
I could. show easily on the inside, oh yeah, you're French, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Till a certain moment when I grew, I'm rather tall, and
Mm-hmm.
so on. So in France, I'm usually bigger than the average woman, let's say. But
Mm-hmm.
apart from that, nobody could tell. So I could, let's say, get back the price of my investment, the effort and the sacrifice I did. Yeah. But how many people can't? Yeah. Because they
Understood.
have of the skin color, where this category, the power others have on them is still exerted. You can't, there can be no, the illusion I had the comfort to be in
Mm-hmm.
is not, was not accessible for my friends.
The illusion you had the comfort to be in. That's very nice to put. But Anna, you've said so many things there. First of all, I appreciate the example that you brought of this young woman who worked at KFC for a while with all her qualifications and eventually breaking through the limits placed on her by the society within which she found herself. And you spoke about also your own experience. You brought examples and comparisons with other friends who were in similar situations. And you also drew an example of, let's say, a European society and how it behaved or how it had to behave based on its own limitation, its own inability to accept the other. So I mean, you've brought quite a lot, and at this point, I would like to ask you, what exactly? I do know you a little bit. What exactly, apart from your experience, what exactly are the faculties or the let's say the studies that have brought you to a place where you can understand these things from a place of mindfulness and maybe even science? Yes, intercultural studies. What are the things that have helped you to understand these frameworks that people or systems or societies work through? What are the things that helps you to see these things more clearly?
I think, yes, intercultural approach was very important,
Mm-hmm.
but
So the
also the
study
systemic,
of that.
study intercultural studies. But I think also maybe even more systemic was the sociology of Pierre Bourdieu, around social capital and reproduction of privileges and so on.
Mm-hmm.
Also, the systemic approach of society and norms, seeing things not as seeing a lot of things as a relationship, actually, yeah. So that these relationships are shaped by both sides, and they have also an individual dimension, but also a systemic, a structural dimension. This
Mm-hmm.
was helpful. And actually also therapy, psychotherapy,
Mm-hmm.
because I think you can approach things also from a kind of theoretical point of view,
Yes.
but the fact to reflect on my own experience and also being able to experience myself as judgmental too.
Yes, yes. I started with that
Yeah,
as well, luckily. Sometimes I'm also judgmental, just sort of laziness, I think. But sometimes I do have
yeah.
empathy and
Um,
I recognize some pain that I don't think my sort of my European colleagues recognize when I see, for example, someone trying to integrate. Yeah.
mhm, mhm.
Yeah. Well, Anna, thank you for that. I hope I didn't interrupt you too strongly, but just to remind our listeners why we're doing this today, why this episode exists, we are hoping to also help anyone who has also recognized their own tendency or readiness to permanently regulate or relegate, or as we say in German, abstempeln, whether it be people or systems or methodologies as failures because it's the easiest thing to do at the moment,
Mhm.
and not mindful of the fact that we might be closing someone out permanently and maybe even
Yes.
ruining their whole existence, even though we don't really mean to. Yes.
Mm.
So, anybody who, is a little bit sensitive and a little bit empathetic towards their own tendencies and wants to make it better, then maybe this episode would help them to find that new state of being. Thank you for also telling me where this knowledge and experience came from. That was really nice. And right now, though, for this show, for the English Coach podcast, I'm always trying to put this into the context of the adult learning experience.
Mhm.
Yes. But I suspect, considering the depth and breadth of this topic, it could also be something, or that I also feature in parts in Life is Feeling. I'm not quite sure yet. Yes. However, is there anything else that you'd like to add to this? It's a short episode today, and you've already given me so much, Anna. Is there anything that you'd
Sorry,
like
I
to
hope it
add?
was not too much of a monologue. You inspired me, and it's just
Mm-mm.
kind of burst out. And
Mm-mm.
it's there is a lot of maybe there is a book I could recommend that I find very inspiring, and I rarely read books again,
Mm-hmm.
again and again, but
Yeah.
this one is one of them. It's All Rise from Robert Fuller.
All
Um,
rise.
Exactly. I can find the complete title of it. Somebody's, Nobody's, and the Politics of Dignity is the undertitle.
Yeah. The politics of dignity. Yes, that sounds heavy, actually. That sounds heavy.
Actually, it's really, yeah, it's profound. Let's say
That is the word.
it's deep.
Mm-hmm.
It's deep. I found it at a point in my life where it was exactly the book that I needed. I think the book found me. Sometimes books find you at the right moment, and this was one of them. And it's something a book. It's a book I have already given as a gift, shared as a gift with a lot of friends.
Oh dear. Sometimes I wonder, how do you share these profound gifts without giving the wrong impression? But it's definitely a gift that I would give to myself. I will check this out. I will put the link to this book also in the show notes for this episode. Thank you for that. And yeah, I'm sure, maybe hopefully at least one of the listeners will find occasion to buy this book one day.
Mhm.
Yeah. Oh dear. All right. Well, Anna, coincidentally, I also am aware of the fact that you are in the process of creating your own podcast. Yes. What stage in
That's
this
true.
process are you at right now?
Well, I have the idea, I have the concept, the philosophy of the podcast, and I have a first recording and a lot of topics I want to talk about. And right now, it's almost ready. Let's say from the technical point of view, I could start. From a content point of view, I could prepare, but I see that I'm going through another phase of digestion or preparation to jump, to have the energy to jump and do it. So it will be, I hope, to start this year. If not, it will be the beginning of next year. It's good also to begin something
Mm-hmm.
with the new year. We'll
Yes.
see.
Yes, yes,
Called
yes.
Lakeside Talks, and it's about walking around the lake and gathering some day-to-day philosophical thoughts, but not philosophical, in a kind of academic sense. It's rather kind of, find the thread that helps you have moments of good life every day.
Okay. Okay. Well, that definitely sounds inviting. And I mean, together with the wealth of knowledge that you have brought to my episodes from time to time, and this wonderful voice that you also bring. Yes, yes, yes. A soothing presence. I am sure that it will be a hit. And I'm always here to help, with the promotion. We have to help each other.
Mhm.
So,
Thank you.
Yeah, the link to that, at least to your website, will also be in the show notes, which is, remind me of that again, the listeners.
Beautifulskills.io. A friend of mine is working on the website currently. I actually planned to have it in October, but COVID decided differently, and it will be beginning of January, I think.
I am certainly looking forward. And as usual, Anna, thank you again for joining me for this short episode. I'm still not sure. I'm still basking in the afterglow of that opera that I saw yesterday, Tosca. Yes, and for some reason I don't know. I mean, the story was pretty dark, and it did explore some of the dark sides of the human existence. But whatever the case, a lot of it was also driven by love, which is knowledge of love and the feeling and the experience of it. Most of us have, and the question is, what are we gonna do with it? So the same way the opera made me more aware of the dark sides of my own human existence, and will help me to decide, my higher self, to decide what choice I will make. It's the same way I hope this episode, yes, with us both speaking about our own tendencies to call people or things a failure forever, we will also learn how to be more positive and more open and more inclusive about these things as well.
Resisting this lazy tendency to immediately categorize. Yeah,
it is lazy. All right, so we did promise for this to be a short one, so we're gonna cap it right here.
Short.
Thanks again, Anna. It was fantastic. All right, bye.
Thank you. Bye. Take care.